You're listening to The Pulse on AMI Audio. Dr. Edsel Ing is the professor and chair of ophthalmology at the University of Alberta and the Alberta Health Services chief of ophthalmology for the Edmonton zone. And he and his team at University of Alberta have created software to partially restore peripheral vision for people affected by strokes and other brain injuries. Dr. Ing joins us now along with Glenn Calverley, a user of the software, and both of us are going to chat about the research and how the picture-in-picture software is life-changing. Welcome to the Pulse, guys, and I'd like to start with Dr. Ing. Can you tell me a little bit about your career and what inspires your research?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the invitation here, Grant. And thank you so much, Glenn, for helping me once again. I'm an MD eye doctor. I spent most of my career in Toronto. And about 2-3 years ago, the University of Alberta Medical School said that there might be some funding for research. And I've always wanted to try to do something to help patients with vision loss after stroke. So I wouldn't say that what we did was life-changing, but I think it's a start for a new paradigm for investigation, because as far as I know, this hasn't been done before where we do this picture-in-picture stuff.
And Glenn, maybe we can just learn a little bit about your journey, just your vision loss journey to start with.
The actual vision loss was kind of headache. It just started off as a really bad headache for a day or so, but my vision just kind of disappeared and never really came back. It's kind of patchy. It's hard to describe. I lost a lot of my color vision.
Did you sort of like have a moment where you were kind of like, oh, this is more than just a headache? Or would you say it was more sort of a gradual like process and a realization?
Well, it was, I woke up with really bad headache, which, is not unusual. What usually happens is, you have a headache in the morning, it goes away in the afternoon and you're fine. Mm-hmm. What didn't happen was it didn't go away. So after about a day or so, and I started doing things like, I look at myself in the mirror and I couldn't really see my face. So I didn't understand. So I need to go see a doctor.
And what sort of effect, before you were able to experience the software that we're going to talk about today, what sort of effects had that change had on your daily life?
Actually, surprising a lot. The first thing that happens when you have any hint of a stroke is they tell you are not allowed to drive. You're done. So, and then there's a more formal process later, but basically right away it's like you can't drive. Major. So you have to learn how to, use the LRT. I'm using my bike a lot. I had one of the symptoms of my stroke was I was having problems visualizing point A to point B. I don't know if I can explain it properly. Like, how to get from where you are to where you work, and you can picture the intersections and the turns and all that. I had problems with that, so I had to relearn how to use that.
Yeah, and that's interesting because it isn't the eyes themselves that are affected so much as the pathways in the brain, right? Is that kind of how it works? So
exactly.
I suppose
because it's my color vision as well as my 3D acuity, and also I've got a ringing in my ears that I just leave a fan on and it goes away.
So obviously this did impact your visual field, which is what led you to be a user of this interesting software that we're going to talk about today. I want to go back to you, Dr. Ing. Smart glasses seem like they're a really promising tool for users with different levels of vision. Can you start by telling us what are the differences between virtual reality and mixed reality glasses, and which are going to be really beneficial?
So I don't use virtual reality glasses for gaming. Glenn's probably the expert on that. But when you put the virtual reality headset on, you only see the game environment, so to speak. Whereas mixed reality glasses or augmented reality glasses, they're actually see-through glasses. And you can see the actual visual environment, and they have holograms superimposed on things. So you could actually, if you didn't have the glasses turned on, you could still walk around them, and they're sort of like sunglasses. And then the software for the particular unit that we use called the HoloLens, it'll put a little hologram in there, and it integrates quite well into the actual visual environment.
So when we're talking about those mixed reality glasses, would anything like Meta glasses, the Apple Vision, the Microsoft HoloLens, or would those all be sort of mixed reality glasses in the same way?
Right. So
Yeah.
all three of the ones that you mentioned are mixed reality glasses. I forget the MetaQuest number, but the MetaQuest number like has a bunch of little grills in it, and you can still sort of see the visual environment, but it's impeded because of all those filter grills. Whereas the HoloLens is a complete sort of pair of sunglasses. I have not used the Apple software yet. The software engineers that were helping me said that the programming is it's a different language. It's not as commonly used. But the Apple Lens would have I think, application in the future because it has a wider field than the
So,
HoloLens.
yes, absolutely, that makes sense. But the HoloLens is really easier to develop on, perhaps, which makes it ideal for the picture-in-picture software that your team released. Can you describe that software and what it does?
Okay, super. So it's designed, patients still have to have vision, but with a hemianopsia, they lose half their vision. Hemi, half, opsia, vision. So say if your left side of your brain is affected, you lose the vision on the right half of both eyes, and vice versa. So in these patients, since you're missing half your visual field, if something was, say, on the right side of your vision, like a monster, but you could only see on the left side, you would be missing it. So what we did was we took the whole visual field detail and we compressed it and put it in the remaining seeing side. So hopefully you could still see things like monsters or obstacles showing up. Yeah. So it is smaller than what you would see if you were sighted in both eyes and the brain pathways were working, but it restores the full visual field detail. It's a lot like the picture-in-picture feature that you have in your television. If you're trying to watch two programs at once, but one's just off to the side. Yeah. Or perhaps like when you're driving and using your GPS, like it's just another little screen there. Or if you're playing your video games and you're trying to like do a driving course and you see a little map of the driving course. So that's what we envisaged it as a tool to help navigation in patients who had lost half their vision.
Okay, so it will not look the same as it would look just to have a conventional visual field, but it's more that you sort of have not really like a mirror in a car, but sort of like a separate screen that you can glance at that shows a different image from the one that your eyes are showing you typically. Is that kind of
It's
correct?
actually the same image there, Grant, except it's smaller and it's moved off to the side. So we tried to make things real time, so the patient could walk around, but trying to have all the images keep up in that tiny hemifield that we put in there took a lot of computer science expertise from my co-researcher called Ishan Roy. So he deserves a lot of credit for doing all the programming, because I kept on asking him, do this, do that, and he's a great guy, and without him this project wouldn't have happened. And he's working in Professor Tavakoli's lab. So but it actually looks like the actual visual environment. It's transposed into the part where you can see. Yeah.
It seems that one of the great values of having a university and being able to do this kind of research is not only the value of the product, which I'm going to ask Glenn about in just a second, but just the experience that this gives students, such as the engineering student you worked with. Can you talk a little bit about the value that you think your student took away from this experience that will help in the future?
Right. I may have given the student angina, but I think we both had a common purpose because we really, there's nothing you can really do to help stroke patients beyond, say, prisms or telling them to move their eyes. And for about 25, 30 years, I've been working as an ophthalmologist, and I always felt dismayed that when the patient left, there was nothing to offer them. So I remember I recruited for somebody in computer science, and when Ishan came, we talked together and said, we're not trying to make a big patent off it. We just want to help people where there's no other solution right now until we know how to replace the brain tissue. So I think just the fact that we're trying to help society in general, that was a big thing. He took that away. And the cross-disciplinary experience is very important because, doctors think in a certain way, engineers think in a certain way. And if you don't interface, you can't really get anything done. And what's most important is people like Glenn, who would spend their time to tell us, listen, that this is, we're getting there, we're getting close, because the patients have to be involved too. So, Glenn's like a super whiz at computers and stuff, and he was always willing to volunteer his time. So without him, we didn't know which direction to go, because originally we could make the objects big or small. We could make them color or black and white, but the patients would explain to us, well, this is what you should be doing. When me and the engineer walked around, we tried to tape half our glasses to imitate as if we'd lost the field, but it's still not the same as what our patients have to go through. So I think it's just things get done when you have a good cause and when you have good people like Glenn and the engineer that we're working with. So I'm really grateful. And that's the reason why I came to Alberta. It's just I didn't have this opportunity to have some research money and interface with the university in my private practice there in Toronto.
Yeah, collaboration and authentic experiences from patients are really key. Glenn, can you talk about, first of all, how you connected with Dr. Ing and this research?
I started off, I think, through an ophthalmologist, Dr. Gervais. He suggested that, Dr. Ing was running this. I was actually running a different study. So I went and participated in that other study first. And then Dr. Ing suggested, hey, I've got this other thing. Do you want to try that? So, okay, yeah, we'll try anything once.
Oh, that's cool. So how did you feel about trying the software? You were a little bit sort of nervous or excited, or were you just kind of went with the flow? How did you feel?
I was all in. Anything that's going to help other people, I'm all for it. So trying the software was exciting, I think.
And how did you feel the first time or the first couple times you experienced the application?
A little trepidation because I wasn't sure what they were projecting was real. I'm used to playing games in VR, so you never know, what is actually there, what isn't there. So it was hard for me to realize what was actually in the hallways that I was walking through and what was virtual. It's kind of interesting.
So what you did was basically an obstacle course. Is that correct? That you were navigating around many different objects and obstacles?
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about how that worked and how it went?
Well, the picture-in-picture display kind of gave me the HoloLens. One thing about it is it's wireless. I think the main reason they use it is it's wireless. So you could walk through these hallways, and it would use the little picture-in-picture thing to show you things that might not be in your field of view. And they moved it over and put it in a different field of view. So it was kind of like a mirror image almost. You've got this object in front of you and to your left, but it's projected in front of you and to your right. That's kind of interesting.
So you mentioned a little bit about kind of gaining that trust over whether the image it was showing you was sort of real. Did it take a while for you to kind of map the image to the real world? You know what I mean? Like if it showed you a different field, maybe a little more to the right, then, you know what I mean? Like how did you kind of map it to your own navigation?
Yeah, it did. It took me, well, it didn't take me that long because I'm used to playing games like that. That's just, I do that every day.
Right.
So it didn't take that long, but it did take some time. Like it took a minute or so to realize, okay, well, that's not actually there. It's over here. So yeah, it took me a little bit to adapt.
Interesting. How would you describe it to someone who's not a gamer at all? Like, do you think it might take someone who's never tried on these mixed reality glasses? Would it take them a while to kind of get the lay of the land, or build up some trust navigating?
Yeah, it might, because you kind of have to develop another map in your brain. Yeah. This is what you might expect, but that's not what's there.
So we were talking about, patient feedback and how having, Glenn, you tried the software, you were able to help make changes, updates. Can you guys, do either of you want to talk a little bit about that? Like an example of, what some of that feedback was and what changes you made in the software to address it?
Yeah, the one problem with the mixed reality glasses, it's not for everybody. So we had 5 patients, and 4 out of 5 liked it, and then we sort of rated at the end. And you ask, like, how much would you say this would help you walk? Mm-hmm. So on average, they said it was 20% better with a p-value, I think 0.03 or something like that. But the one person that didn't like it, as soon as they donned the headset on, they got dizzy. And so they actually avoided more of the obstacles with the headset on, but it's the dizziness that bothered them. And then there's other patients like Glenn, like, he takes it to like a fish to water, right? Like we didn't have to slow him down. We gave every patient 15 minutes before to get used to it. He didn't need 15 minutes. Like he just ready to start walking. So it is different in that, I guess when Glenn's talking, like if you lose the vision on the left side, then we have to put all the images on the right side because that's the only place where you can see. So it's just never having been through what a patient has to experience. It's just very good when they describe things. So we thought originally patients would like different sizes to where the image was, but almost all the patients, like they say, put it in the center, make it color, and make it as big as you can. So I forget if Glenn was the first one that told us that, because we weren't sure about the size, but that makes sense afterwards because like the thing's minified, right? So it made a lot of sense post. I know when we were designing it, fortunately we made it variable, right? Yeah. And in terms of the obstacle course, we didn't want anybody to get hurt. So we put stuff on the floor and we put stuff on the ceiling. So the ceiling stuff, there were paper things. So maybe you get paper cut, I guess. But the floor things were these little soft toys, which are actually still sitting in my office. So like when the administrators come in, they think like I'm a little kid playing with air-filled toys.
Well, it's a good, interesting point though, because I was going to ask about, the variability. So it is built in such a way that it can kind of be adapted then if someone says, oh, I really don't like the picture sort of as big as it is, or I'd like it to be in a different spot. Is that something that you can kind of tailor based on the patient?
Right. Yeah. So like all these demands I made of our engineer, Ishan Roy, said, you got to do this, you got to do that. And, and he did it. And the other thing with the HoloLens, it's difficult to control with your wrist and stuff because there's heavy wrist controls where you're pushing. So we made external controls, and Ishan did all that. Every week I would say, I want this, I want that. And, hats off to him for doing it.
Were you surprised about just how successfully patients like Glenn took to the software? Like Glenn's exceptional. Like he spends a lot of time with the virtual reality stuff, but we're pretty sure it would do something because
if you only can see half your world and you can't integrate it all together, I would think it'd have to be a plus after you got used to the translocation. So we just pretty sure it would do something, because if you're only used to seeing half of the whole thing, it's just nice getting the whole pie, although a smaller piece of pie, but the whole detail back. Yeah.
I would think so. Glenn, can you talk about is this something that you are still continuing to use? Do you have your own HoloLens glasses? Do you use the software, and what sort of impact does it have on your day to day?
No, I don't. I can't afford
Okay.
HoloLens, but I do use the VR glasses that I do have. I do use them in a similar way to Dr. Ing's first study, and I'm using them to try and force the occlusions that I have to start responding, I guess. Like the first study he did, he provided a video that let us, when you stare at a spot, and it would move things through the part of your vision that was missing. So I've created like a virtual desktop that's about the size of an IMAX screen. I go in there and I play the news, like the 6 o'clock news, and I play it on there. But I will use.
Oh, okay.
I'll take my like if I look at you in the on your nose, I can see your face. But if I look at your left shoulder, your face is gone. But if I in VR, if I do the same thing, I can make out details slowly. Like I can see blinks, I can see your mouth moving. So it's not gone.
Okay.
And so the one thing that helped me is I did a vision test about 6 months ago, and I had improvement. Like I have more peripheral vision, and I have more in my blind spot than I had before.
Interesting. So I wonder whether it's partially, can I say, like practice or exposing your brain to different reality experiences, or it's just sort of stroke recovery.
I don't know. Dr. Ing can probably correct me.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say Dr. Ing. I don't know.
I think it's more like stimulation, like using that area of the brain that's not working right and saying, hey, you should probably try this. It might work.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both together. So there is some controversy about this neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. So when you rewire the pathways to the brain for the parts that have perished. So the original study that Glenn was talking about, it's online, and we're just trying to stimulate the hemifield that wasn't working. So we had a left and a right program. So we provide it free. It's online. We can give you the links later. But one of the things that really distressed me about, I guess, 20, 30 years ago, they had this program in the States, and they were charging about $5,000-$6,000 for it. So so is there anything free we could make for the patient? So that was the original PowerPoint program. And the second part is just bypassing the neuroplasticity. We actually just give you the whole visual field in the part that's remaining. So related projects, but little different objectives. And I thank Glenn so much for doing both, because we were just going over things with a medical student. Like sometimes we'll get 30 research subjects, but only 17 will show up, and the other, like all the phoning, it's just hard to get patients with strokes in, because I guess they have other maladies going on and a lot of things to deal with in life. So.
Sorry, if you'd like, I could put the link in for that in the chat if you like.
Yeah, we'll definitely pop those links in to our show notes. Which reminds me, your picture-in-picture software, is it also freely downloadable, or would it be more sort of from a developer focus? How do people get their hands on this?
So absolutely, when we talked to Ishan at the beginning, they said, like, we're not trying to make money off this. We're just trying to help people and hopefully advance the technology. So in the article, I sent the links to Grace Schofield yesterday. Like an engineer, a software engineer, should be able to download it into any HoloLens, any Microsoft HoloLens that they wanted. And we're hoping that people around the world will look at this initial effort, and they can refine it, make it for the Apple So we put things out there. It's in Unity. Apparently, that's a very common gaming platform language, and I'm just excited as the technology and the software gets less obtrusive. I think they can integrate this more into people's lives, and it's just a real privilege, from the research money that the University of Alberta and the Institute of Alberta helped me with, because I was thinking for like 15, 20 years, because how do we do this? And it's just nice to see that it's, partially come to fruition. We're moving the needle a little forward, and maybe in the next generations, it'll help people, drive a car. Like, it's not there yet.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted you to get into next, is just, there are barriers, as we know, with mixed reality glasses, especially the cost. But I feel like these are going to be the next big technology for individuals with vision loss. What do you hope happens next?
I guess hopefully that the people that can move it further forward won't just try to be profit motivated, right? So if there's any deserving group of patients, it's after stroke or head injury, when you lose half your vision. And I hope they won't make the prices exorbitant for it. Like, we put our software out for free for anybody that wants to use it and try to develop the technology further. I think things have to be integrated, once again, between the engineers, the physicians, and the patients, and integrated with other software like obstacle detection, or when you go to Walmart and you see things being cleaned, there's a robot cleaner, inside the Tesla cars, they're self-driving. I think all these technologies have to sort of integrate, and then make things safer and easier for patients with visual impairment.
And that's the one incredibly cool thing about universities, is just that they put these incredible applications out there for people to take a look at and advance the research. There's a lot of reason to be optimistic about technology with AI, mixed reality, virtual reality, all this stuff coming down the pipeline. Really huge hopes for this, and it sounds like both of you do as well. Ed, Glenn, thank you so much for joining us today on The Pulse.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, great.
The Pulse airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern on AMI Audio, repeating every 6 hours. You can also catch the show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Grant Hardy. Thanks so much for listening.